Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy. We do projects, training, and consulting. And welcome to the November 25, 2022 show about practicing critical thinking. It's a recurring thing that we usually do every other week. So if you missed this one, you can always catch another one. Plus, they're all archived on YouTube in the Practicing Critical Thinking playlist. So before we jump in on the things that you've been sending in, because you send them in to deltacx.com/links, and I collect them and then I go over them. A couple of things I want to talk about first. First, I put this microphone back at my desk and I made some changes to its settings. Can anybody tell me if it doesn't sound right? It's hard for me to know because when I put my headphones on, there's a weird delay. So let me know if my voice doesn't sound quite right. And that way I can try to fix it. I did my best. Also, I don't know why my video looks a little choppy. Cherish says a tiny bit of feedback. Yeah, you know, I put some effects on it and it almost sounded like it gave it some reverb. So I don't know if you mean feedback in that there's like a high-pitched squeak like you get with that kind of stuff, or if you mean reverb where there's kind of like, it sounds like I'm in a larger room. I thought I heard or a little bit of delay, which we sometimes call echo, but it's technically delay. Everyone want to learn sound engineering words. So let me know which of those things you think you hear. This might just be a very funky episode where I've got a little bit of effects on me, but I can always try to sneak in and see if I can turn these down or turn these off if it's really annoying. Let me try turning that one off. It might make my voice sound a little bit thinner, but hopefully it should turn off the slapback delay. I feel like you hear your voice repeated as a delay, but really quiet. I thought I heard that too in my headphones when I was testing this, but I wasn't sure. Tell me if I just turned it off just now when I made that change in the effects. Meanwhile, so while we figure that out, and thanks to everybody for being junior sound engineers out there, while we figure out my microphone settings, thanks to everybody who is donating to the YouTube channel at all of the levels, all of them. This is now everybody. So thanks to everybody for their kind donations through the YouTube channel. Totally optional, always appreciated. Thanks, everybody. No, it didn't go away. Everybody says still echoing. Okay, hold on. Let's press a couple of other buttons. Let's see. What if I kill this and this? Did that change it? I know I have to wait 40 seconds to hear from y'all if that changed it. That should turn off all the effects I put on my voice. It will change how I sound. You will hear more of my mouth clicks. You will hear more of my plosives. Yes, Ralitza says it's gone. Okay, I'll have to figure out which of those things was causing it. I turned on a thing that removes mouth clicks so I don't sound so ASMR. And I turned on a deplosive. So again, if you all want to be junior sound engineers, plosives are your explosive P's and sometimes T's and sometimes K's. And I do tend to have very explosive plosives. So, all right. So thank you for everybody helping me out as junior sound engineers. And I will work more on improving my microphone effects some other time. All right. Thanks, everybody. Hey, Kaushik, good to see you. Carolina. Thanks, Cherish. Thanks, everybody, for the help. All right. So what else do I need to tell you? My book is coming out a week from today, Friday. So get ready, get excited. Amazon will have Kindle, paperback, and hardcover. Oops, sorry. And I will be personally signing and sending out hardcovers if people do want a signed version. That is more expensive because shipping from Italy is wild, but that will be available. Quietly opening up the merchandise store. This is the non-rectangle version. I also have a rectangle version and a more square version, but there you go. So I'm having fun, and you can find that at deltacx.shop. It's a Redbubble store. Hi, Ian. Happy Friday, everybody. Okay, so we've got a few things to check out today. Let's flip over to my other screen and we will critical think our way through this stuff. Another thing I wanted to mention is that thanks to Cherish's help, I wrote an article about meaningful, actionable, and helpful. It's something we've been saying on the channel for way too long. It goes with this graphic, and people have been asking, well, what do you mean by that? So I now have a Medium article, which I'll get on the YouTube channel as a video and then in the coming weeks. But if you'd like to know more about the meaningful, actionable, helpful a framework or paradigm, you can just Google meaningful, actionable, helpful Levitt, and that's me, Debbie Levitt, and it'll probably come up on the Medium thing. Wow, can we get a black T-shirt? Yes, you can. That was a navy blue shirt. You absolutely can. You can get lots of things at the Delta CX shop at deltacx.shop. So yeah, and if there's something you don't see there that you wish I would make, let me know. I'll whip it up. All right, so first, somebody sent an article about Meta responds to report that Mark Zuckerberg is stepping down as CEO. And then the person pasted, I guess, what's part of the article. He said he took accountability for these decisions and how we got here in a message shared with employees. He said he had mistakenly assumed the growth the company saw during the pandemic was likely to continue. In recent months, it has slowed, and that an economic downturn made that even worse. At the same time, Mr. Zuckerberg has been continuing the company's investment into the metaverse, despite questions over whether Meta's work on virtual reality and other technologies is ever likely to pay off. Mr. Zuckerberg has indicated that he sees that mission as being central to the future of his company. Interesting. Meta's latest results, released at the end of October, showed that the company's Reality Labs division, tasked with making VR headsets and other metaverse products, lost almost $10 billion this year so far, and that those losses would grow significantly next year. All right, so we got that out of the way. This is the article. So let's do some critical thinking around this article. By the way, notice the giant cookie thing. I'm just going to say agree. I'm in a private browser. So this article is from 2 days ago. It sounds like there is a report or rumor that Zuckerberg will step down as the head of Facebook, Meta, whatever we're calling it this week. I didn't see this, but I also don't read or watch the news. What do you all think? Do you think that'll happen? And my next critical thinking question is, if it happens, will they just put someone else in his place who will carry on what he's doing? Or would they put someone in his place to do something different? I'm having hot tea. What's everybody else having? I'm an herbal tea person because I'm allergic to caffeine. So I can't read this article without registering, so there goes that. So ultimately, they're claiming that he might be stepping down as CEO. I'll believe it when I see it, but I really doubt, yeah, Ralitza says, I really doubt that'll happen. And my question is, you know, if you have someone leave as CEO and you replace them with someone who's going to do all the same things, then you haven't really changed what's going on there. You're not going to make Facebook or Meta more ethical. You're not going to fix some of the key problems, and you're not going to necessarily fix the money that this VR project is bleeding unless somebody comes into leadership and says, hey, we have to lower the budget on this or take it in another direction or scrap it or whatever it might be. Ralitza says he didn't step down even in the middle of the Cambridge Analytica scandal. Very true. Or any of the other 6 zillion scandals. Let's not... In my book, I mentioned the scandal where they were posting Russian state media before and during Russia's invasion of Ukraine. You would think that would be controversial and that could get a CEO removed. Who can say anymore, you know? So yeah, I'm not too sure why someone sent this to me, especially since we can't read it. But I'm just going to say, don't know, don't care, and I'm going to move on. Okay, Now it gets good. Who's ready for critical thinking? Here we go. This is my fake ASMR. Don't fall asleep. Okay, so Shane Parrish, who I don't think I know, but seems to have about as many followers as I do, so we could joke he's also nobody. But no, seriously, I don't know who he is. He says, this was 2 days ago, something I taught the kids this morning. Big leaps are a seductive myth in school and life. Focus on the relentless accumulation of tiny victories. Compounding happens slowly, then all at once. Right. The person who sent it in was like, he taught his children this? How? How old are they? Can you just imagine a family sitting down together for breakfast cereals and dad is saying, you know, kids, big leaps are a seductive myth in school and in life. Is he like practicing his TED Talk on his kids over the Rice Krispies? This is, okay, so we're having a little bit of humor at his expense, but what's going on here? I really don't know what's going on here. How old are these kids? And how did he teach this to them? So this seems like one of these things that's meant to be motivational, but hey, we've got Cherish here. So let's talk about, does this pass meaningful, actionable, and helpful? First of all, is this true? Oop, I've got all my socials cooking. Ralitsa says, I know, it's how I feel too. What is going on here? Big leaps are a seductive myth. That's extremely broad. So for meaningful, is this true? Is this partially true? I don't even know. He doesn't give us an example. We don't have any evidence. We don't have even a story from his opinion. So this could be his opinion, but I don't even know what this refers to. Big leaps are a seductive myth. Focus on the relentless accumulation of tiny victories. Okay, so this is one of those things that I call a false choice. I think, is it false dichotomy? There is a real term for it, and I always forget it. But it sounds like, hey, you know, you can either have big leaps, but I'm telling you these are a myth. They're just not real. Or you can relentlessly go after tiny victories. Just keep going after the tiny victories. Cherish says, what is a big leap in elementary school? Is this how he talked to his kids? That's right. Do not try to leap from uppercase letters to lowercase letters, my 7-year-olds. I don't know. I have no idea how old this person's children are. Maybe they're 30. I don't know. Cherish thinks it's false dichotomy. Sorry, I'm slurping my hot tea. Nobody told me what they're drinking. What are you drinking, everybody? So, you know, big leaps. What is a big leap? And are we sure they're a myth? And what does that mean if they are a myth? These are our critical thinking questions. I want you to see things like this, whether I say them or someone else says them. Start breaking them into little pieces. What is a big leap? What makes it a seductive myth? What are you talking about, sir? Ralitsa says, I think the goal of this is to teach the value of hard work over time, but there are big leaps. So I'm not saying saying those don't exist is simply not true. Irene is having hot chocolate. Oh, Irene, oh good, yeah, I've got yours coming up. Made it yourself? Not that great. Oh no. Cocoa, water, some sort of dairy product or replacement, sugar or fake sugar? Focus on the relentless accumulation of tiny victories. Yeah, I don't know. When I think about some of the more interesting things I've done in my life in the last 5 or 6 years, like meeting the super Pier Mario, deciding to just move from America to Italy, these, you know, there's a lot of big leaps in there. Writing books. To me, these are big leaps, and I wouldn't have necessarily gotten there through tiny victories. So I think the version of this I would like to put out there is big leaps are great. Tiny victories are great. Shoot for all of them. Go for all of them. Plan them. Organize them. Try to have it all. Cherish says, so he has an extensive blog and podcasts, and part of me thinks this is maybe his way of reminding people of something they've read from him in the past. I don't know. It would be so weird if I posted to LinkedIn and I was like, remember that time I said meow, meow, meow design thinking? And 7 people will be like, yes. And then like 30,000 people will be like, what? So yeah, I don't know. But what you're saying is possible. All right, let's move on, because ultimately this doesn't feel meaningful. It doesn't feel actionable to me. I'm not too sure what to do about this other than what? Stop going for big leaps in my life and only go for tiny victories? I don't know. Is that an action I want to take? Does this help me in any way? I don't feel helped. I feel unseen because I do a lot of big leaps in my life, and this seems to claim they're seductive myths, and my thought is they're real. All right, moving on. Yeah, I started reading this one today and it made me sad. So, and Cherish, you'll recognize a line from this one, perhaps. So this is, yeah, and Cherish says, is this good parenting? I don't know. Yeah, it really depends. You know, it reminds me of a video of my family that actually exists from when I was 7. And my father makes a joke that is way over my head, and he's pretty proud of himself. And I'm just kind of looking at him and I'm like, total facepalm. Like, what's the point? What's the point of making I mean, it wasn't like unclean in any way. It was just a grown-up joke, and I was 7. So, yeah, I guess that's another question. Did your kids get it? What action are your kids taking now? All right, let's take a look at this article. This is somebody I don't know. And this says, this is from a couple of weeks ago, so it's pretty fresh. And it says, Elon Musk eliminated remote work because working from home, quote, doesn't work. Now, it's hard for me to know from the quotes whether the author is saying it doesn't work or whether he's saying Musk says or thinks it doesn't work, but I assume that the article will unravel this for us and help us understand that remote work was eliminated because it doesn't work, and hopefully we will unravel the evidence for that, because again, meaningful, actionable, helpful. We want to see how do we know this, or how do we have that opinion? He wants a 24/7 work culture. Well, that's not a work culture. That's life. I mean, you know, and is that true? Let's start the critical thinking right away with the subheadline there. Did Elon Musk say he expects people to work 24/7? I know that he told people they were going to be working much longer hours and much harder, but I didn't have the impression that that was 24 hours a day. Does anybody know how many hours he expected people to work? Because it doesn't seem to be 24/7. Okay, so then he says, Cherish, stick with me. If remote work is the answer, why are most tech companies laying off people? Now, when someone sent this in for the critical thinking stream, and I happened to see this ahead of time, I thought this question was so bizarre, I put it into my Medium article on meaningful, actionable, helpful. This sentence is very strange. So first of all, is remote work the answer? What was the question? Is it the answer in all cases? In some cases? And why are most tech companies laying off people? Are most tech companies laying off people? Are some laying off people? And then how about these two together? How does remote work being the answer relate to tech companies laying off people? Do these things go together? Can remote work be the answer, but it has nothing to do with why companies have been laying people off? So I feel like we've been introduced to one of those phrases where people just throw an idea out there, usually an opinion. They don't substantiate it at all. They don't explain it. They don't give you any evidence. And they expect you to just go, yeah, if remote work is the answer, why are tech companies laying off people? Hold on, we have Wixel. How have you been? From that quote, I'd assume layoffs never happened prior to remote work. Yes, round of applause. And great to see you. Sorry, my dog is crying. Olivia, why are you crying? Do you want to be on the show? Are you crying to be on the show? Might have to put the dog on the show. That will shut her up. She hates being on camera. Deanna likes it. Olivia doesn't like it. Malika says, tech companies laying people off proves nothing about remote working. Right. I don't think these two are related. Olivia, come here. Come on. Come on. You know you're going to be on the show if you don't be quiet. Let's see if she'll be quiet. Otherwise, we'll pick her up. So just right here, this seemed very strange. Of course, it made me not want to read the article any further. And Medium does pay authors usually by how much of the article they get through, I believe. So I think it's either views or time on the article. Give this person money. So that's very often why there's lots of long Medium articles. I'm writing articles because I'm a long-winded person. I have no short version. Elvina says, please bring the dog. Dog, dog, dog. Yeah, the dog you've posted is her daughter, Deanna. What is the answer trying to answer? Yes, exactly. What was the question? Nearly all tech companies are reevaluating the size of their workforces in a slowing economy, with most imposing hiring freezes and laying off thousands. Again, I don't know how you know this. I know some are. I don't know about nearly all. Would love to know more. As soon as Elon Musk took over Twitter, he laid off half the workforce and asked the other half to show up to the office. Musk reversed the company's existing work-from-anywhere policies and asked Twitter employees to report to offices, though some exceptions could be made. This move is considered hostile by most remote workers who prefer to work at home, citing personal anecdotes to show they're more productive away from the office, even though most tech executives who allow their employees to work remotely are laying off most of their workforce. Okay, so my Italian teacher would be very proud of how long this sentence is. But there's a lot of things in here that we should talk about. So this move is considered hostile by most remote workers who prefer to work at home. There's a piece missing here, and that is people with disabilities, diagnoses, and conditions who need to work from home. So I think we have to remember that when we talk about remote working, which interestingly enough in Italian, the word for remote working in Italian is smart working. I hope my rolled R's were okay. Did I do okay with that one, honey? Lo smart working? Lo smart working. So it's not just remote work, it's smart work. Let's remember that in some cases it's a preference, and in some cases it's really more than that. And we should have, say it with me, we should have the empathy to remember it's not just people with preferences. Citing personal anecdotes to show they're more productive away from the office. My take on the way he says personal anecdotes, I hear, and this is an implication, I think, is that they don't have hard data. And we've talked before about the fake trap of hard data. But it sounds like nobody has any hard data that they're more productive away from the office. I believe that people do have that data. Is it in anecdotal form? Some of it. You would have to tell me what to you is not an anecdote. Does it have to be, say it with me, 12 university studies that have been peer reviewed? Or, what data will satisfy this person? That's why it's usually a trap. Cherish says there's no reference to the economic environment and how that affects decisions around layoffs. I think he mentioned the economy earlier, but and hold on, as usual, my screen's about to turn off. Most tech executives who allow their employees to work remotely are laying off most of their workforce. Yeah, I think this is he's got some sort of very thin, tenuous correlation here, and we all know, say it with me, correlation is not causation. If people are laying off remote workers, it is not necessarily because they are remote workers. Musk happens to prefer people in offices, that's fine, but that doesn't mean that people not in offices aren't productive. Show up to work or stay home. Now he's trying to say, look how great Musk is. He's just so successful and wonderful. You can't claim he doesn't know what's best for his newly acquired company. I think you can claim that. He immediately cut half the workforce, and then I think a quarter or so, I think I read, of the remaining people quit. So, does he still know what's best for his company if people don't want to work there? Yes? No? What's the point? What is this guy's point? What is this article again? What's this article about? I don't even know. Hey, don't forget to subscribe while I have some tea. Ian says, even Musk had to acknowledge that work from home wasn't practical in the EU headquarters, where the cost of the living crisis and the housing shortage, like in Ireland, wouldn't allow staff to afford rent in Dublin. So much to think about there. Thank you for that. Well, hold on. Work from home isn't practical where the cost of living wouldn't allow them to afford rent. But aren't they paid the same whether they work from home or they come into the HQ? Is it that they can't afford their rent because he's not paying them enough? Apologies, typo. Working in office wasn't practical. All right, let's move on. Now I'm confusing myself. It's very clear that Musk doesn't believe that people can be as productive working from home. I told you earlier you can't work for Elon Musk. He is different. Okay. No, I don't remember you telling me that earlier. Unless by earlier you're linking to okay, looks like he's linking to his previous article. You can't work for Twitter. Elon Musk is different. Okay, this guy seems to think we remember things he said. Whatever. Elon works long hours, and I guess you should too. Even though I've seen more articles saying that company leaders shouldn't expect people to put in the hours they do because the workers don't have the skin in the game that the owners or executive suite has. So I don't, other than, I don't know, I've got this kind of lotion and tissues feeling article related to Musk because I don't know what this is about. But he does want you to support his writing by being a media member so that he gets a piece of the money from you reading this. And don't forget to take his course. What do we think his course costs, everybody? Let's take a look. Oh, we don't even know. This is the whole webpage. Pass. Maybe he works a lot because he's a CEO of too many companies, right? That's a good question. So I found this article pretty unlikable. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about this other than continue not working for Elon Musk. Cherish says 300 pounds. Elvina says, everyone seems to be judging Elon's decision, but we only know one side of the story. I'm not defending him, but maybe these layoffs were necessary. I don't know. You know, when are layoffs necessary and when aren't they? And it's also a matter of how they're handled. You know, in some cases, we've read stuff about this, that, you know, where he shows up and he says, you know, if you still want to work here, tell me by 5 o'clock tomorrow. You know, but you'll have to work twice as hard and I guess for the same money. That doesn't sound good to me. I don't know who wants that, but someone does. All right, this was something Irena sent in to our Slack channel. She had received a demo from a software tool, and the salesperson had sent a couple of follow-up emails that she mostly ignored. She was just very busy, and she didn't think to write the person back. And I guess her company had either not decided to go with this company or decided not to go with the company because clearly responding to the salesman was not a priority. And this was another email that she got, and she sent it to the Slack channel to see what we thought of it. And it says, "Hi, Irena. It seems we had a great chat, but I have not heard back from you since." Something I said. Best, Mike. Now, when she first posted this to Slack and I hadn't read her story around it and I just saw this screenshot from her email, I thought she'd been on a dating website. There was something about this that to me seemed extremely emotional. It didn't seem like something that had to do with sales or a SaaS system. It seemed like something that was emotional. And then it seemed kind of manipulative to me because I think that a more sensitive, caring, friendly person would think, oh, I can't keep ignoring him. I better write him back. He sounds hurt. But I think this is a manipulation. He might not even have written this. This might be a drip campaign. This gets sent out automatically, perhaps. But it's pretending like there's like a hidden "you've kind of hurt me" vibe here. Irena says, okay, it's rude to not reply. I just forgot about it. Well, I don't reply to salespeople all freaking day long, and I don't feel rude. You know, that's part of sales. Part of sales is you're not going to hear from some of the people you write to, or you're going to hear back much later. This should be something this guy understands if he works in sales. But so for example, what's manipulative about this, in my opinion? It's the something I said, because it could make sense to write to her and say, hey, it was great to give you that demo of our system a few weeks ago. I haven't heard back from you since, and I'm wondering if you're still considering our system. He can certainly send that. Now, maybe that's what his other email said, but this one goes for the emotions, because I think it would probably make Irena or somebody like her say, oh, did I say, he's saying, oh, did I say something to hurt or upset you? I should write back and let him know, no, it's not you. You haven't said anything to upset me. It's kind of an appeal to emotions. I find it manipulative. Cherish says, it turns something professional into something personal. How are you supposed to respond to this? Care for his feelings, then respond? Irena says, maybe he learned about this in some kind of sales boot camp. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a sale. I'm not familiar with sales tactics, but I wouldn't be surprised if it were because I get sales spam all day long and I don't read a lot of it, but sometimes as I'm deleting it, I notice some of the things in it, and a lot of it is like, hey, don't leave me hanging. Hey, I haven't heard back from you. And this is from people I didn't have a demo with and have had but they're on like their fourth email to me. Hey, I haven't heard back from you. Hey, it doesn't look like you're making time for me. These are just all, to me, this one is more manipulative because this person had a conversation with you and now they're acting like I'm not hearing back from you. Was it something I said? Like that's the kind of thing you say to a romantic partner. That doesn't seem like the kind of thing you say to a sales lead. Stuff like that would usually, I've actually left a SaaS company because I hated dealing with their salespeople that much. I was like, that's it, cancel, not coming back, hate your salespeople. I think if I saw something like this, unless I really, really loved their system and wanted to sign up and nothing was going to stop me from signing up because I really liked it, I think I'd probably write back and say, this is unacceptable and manipulative. Make sure you've taken me off all of your lists and drip campaigns. GDPR, I live in Europe. Shweta says, nobody owes salespeople their time. That's how I feel. Just because a salesperson has a conversation with me or spams me doesn't mean I have to respond to that. All right, we got two more, and one of them is long. This is from almost 2 months ago, and this is a Fast Company article, and I apologize, I might pronounce this person's name incorrectly. Oh, Ralitza says, usually I would respond to people who I had a follow-up interaction with, even if sales. Yeah, if you have time. Adrienne Guillory. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation of her or their name, but I thought this was a nice article, and I wrote them a thank you note after I saw it. And Ralitza says, but if I got this message, I'd ignore it and block the person on principle. I don't appreciate conforming to people's assumptions and expectations if they push me into it. This was actually a nice article. So if you find it, it's Fast Company. The rigor of UX is in the research, not the design. And basically what they're saying here is honestly the very short version of some of the things that are in my book, that basically we are hurting research, we're hurting our knowledge by trying to cut corners. We're cutting corners based on time, we're cutting corners based on research rigor, we're cutting corners by trying to replace good research studies or people with tools, or she's hinting at democratization here, and we're not always recruiting the right people. We're recruiting whoever it was faster or cheaper to get. And she says, bring back the rigor, build UX research into your process, properly define your target audience and recruit them, engage a sufficient sample size from that group, conduct a proper follow-up analysis, invest in research partnerships and training. So, 5 dogs out of 5 from me. I thought this person had a lot of good points. It was definitely the much shorter version than my book. It was certainly meaningful to me, actionable. She does give you some bullet point tips on things you can do. Of course, you may not know exactly how to do these things after reading this, so it's semi-actionable, but certainly an article like this can open up conversations, and sometimes even that is the action you can take. And so I think this would be meaningful and actionable and helpful. I did like the article. So yeah. Now we've got a longer one to look at, but I'll see if anybody has any last comments on this one before we move on to something longer that's going to really try your critical thinking skills. Any last thoughts on that? Sorry for the delay, but welcome to the YouTube world. All right, I'll move on. So the last one we have, I had to log in to my real account. So there you go. This is my real LinkedIn account, logged in, not in the private browser, because you can't see all of the comments and replies in LinkedIn if you don't log in. So this is a post from Janelle a few days ago. I find that I generally don't agree with her, but I am connected to her, as you can see from the first degree there, but I generally don't agree with her, so I generally ignore a lot of her posts. So let's first start with her post, and then we're going to talk about some of the comments that it got. She says, we need to separate the research democratization debate from the discussion about research quality and rigor. Carolina says, good idea to cross critical thinking and UX research. Yes. So right off the bat, right there, I had questions. Why do we need to do that? Why should we separate these things? Oh, can these things be separated? Can we talk about research democracy, the quality of the research that's being done? And I think these things can't be separated. I am not sure what we can say about democratization without bringing up the idea that in not all cases, but in many cases, the research that is being done by people who might not be good at it could be low quality and or poor rigor, as we just saw in the last article. Janelle, go read that article. So why do we need to separate that? Now, my guess, and this is just a guess, my guess is she wants it separated because it weakens it. If I say, look, I want to debate politics with you, but I don't want you to talk about anything related to guns or religion or women. And you're going, well, hold on. If we're going to talk about politics, and it's America, some of that is probably going to be the things you just said. Why are you making rules? Why are you putting me in a box? So I find that people sometimes do that as an arguing technique. Like, I want to talk about this thing, but I don't want to hear any of the points or arguments that might weaken what I want to say about this. So be careful of that. You do not have to agree with that. You don't have to press like on that. And I think in my personal opinion or professional opinion is that we cannot separate the democratization controversy from the quality and rigor discussion. I can't separate those two. Then she says, being pro-democratization does not mean you must accept low-quality research. So evidently, despite that she's saying we have to separate these, she's still talking about them together. So take your own advice. Carolina says, I was talking to Janelle yesterday. She's lovely. Okay, sounds good. Being pro-democratization does not mean you must accept low-quality research. That's true. Being anti-democratization does not mean you magically retain a high-quality research practice. That could also be true, but these are still not necessarily relevant to the central point. I feel like we're arguing some other point here. Either case requires research experts. The difference is, in pro-democratization, the research experts must also be expert teachers to instruct research process and research mindset. That is not necessarily true. That might be her opinion, that she does appear to be pro-democratization, and she does seem to post on this from time to time. So maybe she's saying, well, democratization can be okay if research experts are also expert teachers and we're overseeing what people do. I would still be against democratization, even in that cherry-picked specific example. But then what's her point? Because hypothetically, she wants research experts to be expert teachers to instruct process and mindset so that there's research quality and rigor, right? She can't tell me that she wants research experts who are expert teachers to instruct research process, but who cares about quality and let's not talk about rigor. I think she undoes her own point here. Let's call it the university model. If you want to work as a faculty member at a university, you have to be an expert researcher, but you must also be highly skilled at instilling in your students a problem-solving approach. Now I've lost the point. Why are we here? What is her point? I think she undid her own point because it sounds like she's for democratization in situations where expert researchers are expert teachers and they're teaching research so that research is quality and has rigor. So then we can't separate a discussion of quality and rigor from a discussion of democratization. She was unable to do it in her own post. Yeah, Carolina says, what is democratization in the first place? And that's what ended up happening in some of the comments. So let's go to Dr. Ari. And Dr. Ari said, I'm a supporter and a fan of Janelle's, but I'm not sure I agree. How can you separate this argument? Yeah, Wilson says this sounds like a riddle. It does. How can you separate this, especially when the arguments against democratization are predicated on the point? They're predicated on research quality and rigor. Now, Ari says, let's start with my definition of democratization. Anyone in an organization can do research without upskilling, training, coaching, etc. And so now we're getting into the fight of what is democratization, what isn't democratization. Shweta says the problem is that would researchers have time to work and coach others? There's already, yes, that's a point I make in the book, and one of the many reasons I'm against democratization is that even in Janelle's dream world where expert researchers who are great teachers and instructional designers can teach this, who has time for that? And if I think we had a previous battle with Janelle. Yes, we had a previous battle with Janelle when she posted that she believes, and she had an article on this, that there should be a research evangelist job. And I said, if I got research budget, I am not hiring an evangelist. I'm hiring more researchers to do the work. Good work will evangelize itself. I don't need a research evangelist. No one needs that. So this seems to be something Janelle is pushing. I don't know why. I tend to think, but again, I'm not too sure, I'm not too sure why anybody pushes democratization unless it makes them money. But speaking of making them money, so Janelle points out we have slightly different definitions. And she says, I don't think it's possible to avoid including others in our research process. But again, that's very, very broad. And what does that mean? What does that look like? And now she's saying, how will we get buy-in if we keep the process behind closed doors? Now she's starting to fight democratization. But remember, we get buy-in on things all the time without involving people in that work. We get buy-in on designs without people doing the designs with us. We get buy-in on strategies without everybody having made the strategy. We get buy-in on code that developers wrote without everybody writing the code. So I think that we're pointing at a larger problem here, which is we struggle to get buy-in. But the answer is not going to be everybody do research with us. That would, I have found that ultimately makes people appreciate research less because they go, oh, well, anybody could do this. Look, we're all doing it. Anybody can do this. I guess it's not that important. It's not that specialized. Irena says, good work will evangelize itself. Say it louder for the people in the back. Sounds like I need to put that on a shirt. Elvina says, yeah, where are the software development evangelists? Carolina says, even Spool intervened. This is getting better and better. I'll check the comments later. Yeah, let's talk about Spool because I find Spool to be really bad at arguing, and I can't prove this, but I have a suspicion that he's a malignant narcissist. So it's really important to look at some of his techniques because they can be very slippery. So Jared Spool says, who else shares your definition that democratization means anyone in an organization? Now, right here, this is a trick question that nobody should respond to. Do not respond to this question. Remember I was talking earlier about the trap of, where's your data? Where's your evidence? That's a common thing that I've seen Spool and others do. But really, it doesn't argue the central point. We're no longer talking about is democratization good or bad or things like that. Now it's, Dr. Ari, who else agrees with you? And it sounds like we're going to try to figure out who has the most supporters, and I guess that side wins, is more popular, is cooler. I don't know. Carolina says, malignant narcissist, harsh. I'm learning so much today. Well, look up malignant narcissist and, see what you think. But again, I'm not a psychologist or an expert. I can only say he appears to have some of those traits, but he may or may not be. I can't say. So first of all, this is a losing battle. If I said to Carolina, Carolina, how many people agree with you? Can you name some of the people who agree with you? we're not arguing the central point anymore, and people should notice this is a game. I call it a distraction technique. We're trying to distract people from the original conversation. Now note that because of the things that Spool sells, he makes money on democratization. He then says, I'm not a fan of democratization myself. Now, of course, he doesn't define it. And if you look up some of the things that Jared has said publicly, he is both for and against democratization because he needs to make money from both sides. So he needs to look for it for some people, and he needs to look against it for other people because he'll make more money if he's just on everybody's side. I'm for it and I'm against it. Ooh, everybody can say, I agree with Jared Spool when he said he was for it. I agree with him when he said he was against it. He takes both sides of the issue so that he can have the largest possible audience, which is his choice. But again, you can see what he's doing here when he says, I've never seen anyone else define it this way. Well, then Jared is living in a cave because there are certainly many people who define democratization the way that Ari does. Ari doesn't have a new, bizarre, unheard of definition of democratization, but you can see what Jared is doing in trying to put Ari on the defensive. So notice these techniques because now, and of course, Ari fell for it. All these things happen while I'm asleep. If I were awake, I would be going, everybody stop this right now. But again, notice that the best thing you can do is ignore this stuff because it's a game, it's a trap, you can't win. Because what could you say back to Jared that he would then accept? Is he looking to change his mind? Is he open to new information? Is he genuinely curious and wants to learn something new? No, he's saying, who else agrees with you because I'm not hearing anybody define it the way you are. Ari's profile says Metro Police Detective. Yes, he's been on the show twice now. He was a police detective. He has a PhD in psychology, and he transitioned into UX research, and he is now, I think, a head of or director at Twilio. Now, unfortunately, Ari took the bait, which is extremely unfortunate. So Ari responds to him and tries to say, look, democratization is defined by different people in different ways. Here's the Nielsen Norman Group definition, which is certainly a fair source to cite, making it acceptable and possible for anyone, no matter their role, to do user research. So there you go. Now, Jared is saying, I haven't seen a definition that is widely accepted. So he's trying to say, well, you know, none of the definitions are widely accepted. So each organization I've talked to, I need to ask them what they mean by it. Now, I think that's fair of him to say, because I would put design thinking in the same bucket. When someone says, yeah, I do design thinking, I have to ask them, what's your definition of design thinking? Because it really could be anything. It could be the worst version of UX out there, and it could be a fuller version of UX where they've just attached design thinking to it because that's a trendy name. Democratization is the same. Jared is right here. We don't know what it means to each individual person, though Ari has made it clear what it means to him, and I think Janelle has made it clear what it means to her. Nobody I've ever met has asserted that they expected anyone in the organization to do it without any training or coaching. That's funny, because I've got something for y'all. Let's take a look at an article I wrote on Medium where I quote a number of things Jared Spool has published. Here it is. This was a webinar that Jared ran, I think, earlier this year. And take a look at what he says. He says, your job is harder when you're the only team member who understands how to conduct insightful UX research and deliver good UX designs. But this is solvable. You need to shift from delivering research and design to facilitating the delivery of good research and design. Shweta says, yikes, Jared's being patronizing. Yes, that's usually in the bucket. So notice that this is a hint at democratization. He is saying, look, let me tell you, your job is harder when you're the only person doing good UX work. Now, of course, the answer isn't hire more UX people or open the door to juniors. The answer is you need to facilitate good research and design. And he says, I will share powerful techniques that bring better UX skills to your agile teams. So everybody see what's going on here. And by the way, take a look at the first paragraph. Let's circle. I forgot to read you the first paragraph. Imagine working on a team where everyone, the developers, the product managers, every team member had the skills and knowledge to produce UX work. Notice he doesn't say good UX work or great UX work. You're just producing work. I've got a new graphic for this, by the way. Not the world's best UX work. Okay, so he admits that developers, product managers, and everybody is not going to do a great job, but he decides it's good enough for your customers. You could save time by not needing to redo or even check their work. You could focus on problems. So as you will see, he is selling people on the idea that the whole agile team, developers, product managers, everybody, they're going to do UX work. It's probably not great, but it'll be good enough, and you won't need to redo their work. Heck, you don't even need to check their work. But of course, he has to make it sound like he's for training because he sells training. So evidently, these people need training, but they don't need their work checked. I'm just going to give you a piano piece to learn, but I'm never going to listen back to how you play that piano piece. I'm just going to assume you've played it well enough. So now take a look at where Jared goes. I think it's a disingenuous straw man to shoot down when you pose that particular definition only to reject it, which is something Jared does a lot. He pins things on people, he assigns them things they don't necessarily believe, and then he shoots it down. Cherish says, so let other people pump out bad work so you can do the stuff that's interesting to you? A little bit. Carolina says, it seems he's promoting democratization. I agree. I believe Jared does because I believe he makes money from the training. There is no money to be made in being anti-democratization. I cannot sell you on my 5-day training of not democratizing your UX research. So there you go. So now watch where he goes, because remember, we're looking for Jared to be using distraction techniques, and we're looking for him to move further and further away from the central argument. Why not say it's requiring people to eat purple goo and then go on to say you think that's an awful idea? So another thing you'll notice about Jared's techniques is that he starts a lot of fires and battles on a lot of fronts. By the time you've read one single response from him, you have like 6 things that you could respond to if you wanted to respond point by point, which would be a mistake, because that's setting you up for the failure of you didn't respond to all of my points, or you didn't respond to all of my points very well, so I guess my points were too strong. Now, I'm not saying he's saying this, I'm just saying that's a common thing that happens with this type of technique. Most people I talk to seem to believe democratization is a way to push people into doing rote usability testing with the goal of freeing up the researchers to do research projects they can't get to today. I think that's a formula for failure where nobody will benefit. Doesn't this sound like what he just said he was going to sell you? Is this just me? I feel like this sounds like what he just said he was going to sell you, which means I need to take a quick screenshot of this. Again, I do find that he plays both sides of the fence so that he can have something for everyone and win them all over. Spool. Oh, so many spool screenshots. What should we call this one? Spool undoes. Oh, I already have spool undoing things. Gosh, it's so often. Spool undoes democratization stance. Let's just call it that. That'll help me find it later. Yeah, so here he is. He's saying, well, most people seem to think it's about freeing up the researchers to do the projects they can't get to, but that's a formula for failure and it doesn't work. Hey, you could be freed up to focus on those harder problems that you're not getting to. Hey, it's a formula for failure to think we're going to free up the researchers to do projects they can't get to. Does anybody else see this? Is it just me? And now it's like I'm gaslighting myself. Am I okay? Yeah, Carolina says, ha, 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 crying face. Right. Now, unfortunately, again, Ari took the bait. Ari shouldn't do this because you can't win against this type of game. So, I'm confused, Dr. Ari. You said a straw man is when someone uses a distorted argument and then attacks it, and then you said that's not what you did, but you made up a definition that doesn't match what anyone else uses, which is false, by the way. Ari is using a definition that other people use, and that's distorted, and then you attacked it, and that's a straw man. And then Ari says, let me Google that for you, straw man. And then, Jared keeps going. So again, then he always usually ends it with making himself the victim and other people are bullies and aggressors. That's usually his pattern. Usually his pattern is start out by fighting a point, but fight like something outside of the point to distract people from the original point. Then start a lot of fires and debate a lot of points at the same time, bringing in something irrelevant. Like last time we went post by post through a Jared Spool adventure, he brought in immigrant janitors into this argument. We were like, how do we get there? So, of course, as usual, Dr. Ari says, you're being a bully. And, oh, Dr. Ari, I find your approach amusing. Almost sounds like a Bond villain, right? Ah, Mr. Bond, you're so amusing. Which of course is condescending, it's belittling, it's minimizing. Dr. Ari is a mature human man with a PhD. He's an intelligent person. He thought he was having a fair conversation with someone, but I told him, please stop doing this. And he says, you made up a position nobody else believes to argue with. And again, so Jared is saying the same thing over and over. No one agrees with you, Dr. Ari. You have a unique definition that nobody on the planet is using. Nobody else shares your made-up position, and now I'm a bully. Well, I guess you feel threatened. I'm curious what's driving it. Now, we also have to look for, in all of this, the mirror. Shweta says, I'm exhausted watching this exchange. Yeah, I would be too if I hadn't grown up in this type of household. So I'm very used to this type of stuff, and I'm used to breaking this into pieces. So usually at some point I find in Jared's stuff, there's the mirror he isn't seeing. Jared is threatened by anti-democratization arguments. He has to be, because he keeps showing up to these to fight Ari and fight other people. He must be threatened by something here. Otherwise, why bother? Jared doesn't spend all day on LinkedIn. He's not commenting on a lot of posts. He's too busy for this stuff, right? He's extremely successful, probably rich. What's he doing on LinkedIn commenting on Dr. Ari's comment to someone else's post? You'd think it's beneath him, but I think he's threatened. I think he's threatened by any intelligent person who puts up a good argument that could lose Jared credibility, could lose him money. These are possibilities. I can't say this for sure. I'm just guessing. That's my guess. Otherwise, why would Jared spend the time on this? What could he possibly win? What's the desired outcome here? He's hoping to discredit Ari. Why does he need to discredit Ari? Why is that important? That's my question. So now Jared says, what's the difference about all of this? In my experience, most user research conducted doesn't meet the needs of the organizations paying for it, so who cares if people are doing poor quality research? Maybe all this discussion of research quality will wake the field up to realize we could be doing better. This is another fire set on another front. This is a new point. So let's screenshot this. Someday Spool will block me. But everybody knows he's been following me for almost a year. He loves my stuff, and you can tell he loves my stuff because his webinars sound more and more like me, at least the way he writes them. Let's see, what should we call this one? Spool says research is bad. Research quality is bad. So yeah, I've noticed that Spool's webinars have really changed from the vibe of this one that I screenshot, where it's like, you don't need to do, you know, hey, let's just let everybody do all the things. Now a lot of his webinars sound more like me. They sound like the things that I say, but that's because we know he's following me. He or people who work for him are watching these videos. Hi. I've caught him stealing from me a number of times. It's really just sad. All right. Cherish has a question, so let's swing back to woo woo woo. Let's put it up on the screen if we can. Oop, it's half on the screen. Cherish said, should we ignore these types of things? I do recommend ignoring these types of things, especially when you see somebody not arguing the central point. Do I still have my argument pyramid up here? I think I forgot to add my argument pyramid when I redid my streaming setup. Has anyone seen my argument pyramid? Let's see if I can add it quickly. So I did a variation of an argument pyramid. Where did it go? Here it is. Argument pyramid. Okay, since I don't have this ready, it's going to cover me up unless I do a quick color key. But this was is Graham's hierarchy of disagreement, and then I made my own version. So credit to Graham, and then I made my own version. And when I take a look at the way that some people discuss, debate, argue, whatever word you want to use for it, there's a lot of name calling. There's a lot of ad hominem. There's a lot of responding to tone where we're saying, oh, you know, you sound emotional or you seem upset, and that's not arguing the point at all. And then, of course, there's logical fallacies, which I find, so I would put Jared's techniques mostly around logical fallacies and some name calling, because I would probably put in the name calling bucket stuff like, well, you know, nobody believes what you believe. You're just alone in that, when that's extremely unlikely. You can always find two people who believe something. Malika says, can I have this triangle on a mug at the Delta CX shop? Sure, let me write that down. We'll add it to the shop. The argument pyramid. I'll work on that this weekend. Thanks, Malika. I might have to clean it up and make it a little bit more readable for small mug size. So, +1. Yeah, I'll need to clean this up a little bit because there's definitely some manipulative things that Jared is doing that belong on here so that you can clearly see them. But, you know, notice that the top of the pyramid where you're having the best conversation or debate or discussion is just refuting the central point. Someone says, I think pizza is disgusting, and I say, okay, let's talk about pizza and why you think it's disgusting, and I'll talk about why I like it. Now we're both talking about pizza. But of course, if you say, I think pizza is disgusting, and I say, well, what are you talking about? I don't know anybody who doesn't like pizza. Can you name other people who see pizza the way you do? Can I get their names and phone numbers? Can you cite some university studies where it was determined that there are people who think pizza is disgusting? These are the types of techniques that we see, and we have to get better at recognizing them, not only to just save ourselves, because very often there's manipulation and gaslighting and other ugly stuff baked into this, but also just to know when to walk away. Remember, there is nothing shameful or bad about walking away from a conversation that's going very badly. A one-sided conversation, a conversation with gaslighting, a conversation with manipulation, a conversation where there's definitely not going to be a winner, a conversation where there are these types of games. So remember, cherish, should you ignore these types of things? I do recommend it. When I see people using these techniques, I've been putting the triangle up and I've been saying, this conversation is over. Find yourself on this triangle. And usually they don't write back. Sometimes they block me, and that's fine by me. So, up to you. You get to pick how you want to handle things, but I always remind people to stop and think about what is the desired outcome. I don't engage Jared Spool in debate, not because I don't think I can outsmart him. I've already done that. More because, what's my desired outcome? Do I win if I can outsmart him? Do I look better? None of these things are real. None of these things matter. Doesn't matter. I've even had a few people say to me, hey, you're so for this or against this. Why don't you have people on your show and debate them? Nobody would look good. Let's say I bring somebody on who loves design thinking and I debate them to say design thinking, unless your definition of design thinking is totally full user-centered design, human-centered design, new graphic. Other side, new graphic. Unless that's your definition, who wins? Who looks good? How do you, the audience, benefit from that? So I do recommend that when you notice that someone has lowered the argument to manipulation and lighting lots of fires and fighting the battle on multiple fronts and acting like you're just some weirdo and nobody agrees with you, as if this is elementary school, then I go, I'm done here. This is not worth my time. And that's a real question you have to ask yourself. What's my desired outcome? Is this worth my time? Will I be glad later that I spent time on this? I don't think Dr. R is. And I know I'm not. I don't enjoy reading anything by Jared Spool in any way. But I think it's important for us to talk more about it because he can be convincing. He does know how to make distracting arguments. As you can see, I have plenty of screenshots and evidence where I can show you he's for one thing and he's against the same thing. And that means, and again, that's just a great, fantastic way to have the most possible followers and target audience. But I know Jared and I don't have a lot of overlap in our target audiences because I'm on fire about critical thinking. I want everybody to break everything into pieces and think it through and ask tough questions of things that I say or write, of things that he says or writes. And I'm not under the impression that he's in the same boat there. I've had a few people tell me some unattractive stories about trying to ask him tough questions. And so let's just say we're different people attracting different audiences. And I hope over time some of his followers will come check out the positive environment here. Oh yeah, this was a new graphic that I made for Anyone Can Cook. That's one of the pro-democratization articles we hear. Anyone can do UX research. Anyone can cook. Sure, not everyone can cook something healthy, delicious. That would get 5 stars out of 5, etc. So we just have to remember that some of these arguments are quite poor. The anyone can do research, everyone's a designer, anyone can cook, do leave out quality. And that's why if we go with what Janelle says and we say, well, let's not talk about quality. I want to talk about this, but you're not allowed to talk about quality. But the whole point is quality. What's the point of doing research if there is no quality or rigor? Don't tell me I can't talk about that. Don't tell me we have to separate those. That's just some weird artificial setup for you to block me or Ari or other people from being able to battle the democratization argument by talking about quality, because then hypothetically Janelle might say, I said let's not talk about quality. I said let's separate these. I don't think she did say that, but she could, because that was what she set up. And that's not cool. So you want to talk about democratization, you have to be ready for all of the angles on it. Oop, power blip. Enjoy that. We could go on and on about this as much as you'd like, but as always, you are welcome to send things in for the Critical Thinking stream at deltacx.com/links. Of course, please do subscribe and tell 3 friends about the channel. We are here to talk about CX and UX to help raise all of you up and to inspire critical thinking. Any questions or thoughts before we move on? While I wait for that, let me remind you of what's coming up on the show, even though you can always go to deltacx.com/links and go to the events calendar and know for yourself. Monday is Think Out Loud. I'm not sure I've got anything to do, so I might cancel it, but we'll see. Tuesday is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. I'll be here for an hour taking any questions people have. All questions are welcome, no charge. Wednesday, I'm going to be reading my new article, thanks to Cherish, who did some editing of it, on meaningful, actionable, and helpful. So that we'll have a video we can refer to when people say, tell me more about this meaningful, actionable, helpful. We'll have the Medium article, and I'll read the article on next Wednesday's show, and we'll discuss it. Of course, Thursday, December 1st is the first Thursday of the month, which means it is our video networking adventure. Every month, not on YouTube. Now I've switched to Remo. We do a live video chat hangout, kind of like Darren's Chit Chat Hour. You can find the link to it in our Slack and Discord communities, which are completely free. You can join those. Just check out the live events channel and you'll see the link there, and we can all hang out and talk about whatever you like. And then a week from today, there will be no Critical Thinking stream. We will be doing our book publishing celebration stream. We will hopefully have all of the print versions on sale by then. I'll hopefully have the website up where you can order the signed hardcover from me, or if you don't want a signed one, you can get it cheaper from Amazon, but Amazon will be selling both hardcovers and paperbacks as well as Kindle. In probably mid-December, I'll have the audiobook ready. That still needs editing time. I am not ready for that. So that's it. And it looks like nobody had any other questions, so we'll wrap up for now. But thanks to everybody for all of your great thoughts and additions to the show, especially for Carolina for putting up with the long version of going through that wacky back and forth there. And again, my advice is when you see those types of argument techniques, when someone is not discussing or debating the central point anymore, walk away. Even if you feel like, I think I lost that argument, or I think I looked like the loser. Who cares? It's LinkedIn. Oh, hi, Oz. Good morning. Yeah, Oz, we're just saying goodbye. The show is over, but I'm always happy to see you. And a reminder, if anybody wants to learn Microsoft Excel, you should learn it from Oz. And that is not sponsored. He is just my friend, I'm proud to say. And he's got a great YouTube channel called Excel on Fire. Thanks for coming, Cherish. And Carolina, Shweta, Malika, Wilson, the whole gang. Good to see everybody. I'm going to play us out of here, and I'll see everybody, if not Monday, definitely Tuesday. Have a great day or night wherever you are. Bye. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are